Okay, it's that time again. Look at more artifacts. This time I've got some foreshafts that I've made that I think reflect what they had in the past. I have two different types here. There probably were more. Basically what I have is a foreshaft that tapers from the very tip to the very bottom. Right, it gets bigger toward the notch. This other one here, it's largest. It's barreled shape. The largest diameter is here near the middle, tapers toward the tip and tapers toward the bottom. Okay, they've both been widened out to fit at little dart points. Okay, so both of these can be used for atlatl darts. You know, you drill a hole and insert these into the void. And there are many drills in the archaeological record made of stone that you can imagine would fit various diameters. Okay. So one thing I noticed is that this type of point, these paternalis type points, fit much better into a foreshaft that is widest at the top than one that is tapered. Now this one's a little bit fat. This might work better. You see how this is canted? The blade is canted there. I can turn it the other way. There's not much room. I can wiggle it a little bit to get it to straighten out, and that might work, but it works much better in a much larger socket or much larger notch as far as being aligned with the axis, the central axis of the foreshaft. And this of course can be used as a knife. This one here, it's more substantial. It's actually flatter in this dimension than it is in this dimension, so it feels like a knife. But of course you can use it as a spear foreshaft or a dart foreshaft. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to go around and I'll put these in here to try them out and stuff as I go along. Curiously, they all fit very well in the same notch, right? This one maybe not, because these ears are very long. You think, I don't know, some of you think that might work in this type of foreshaft? We're missing an ear here, so it may not go that far down. You think that's strong enough for an atlatl dart point? I don't know. It might be. It probably will snap there, but it might be strong enough. It doesn't fit that well in this one because of the long ear. So there's two possibilities. I tend to like this one better for this type of point. Okay. We'll just take a look here. This one has some kind of oxidation stain. That's what that is. It's not the color of the rock itself. It's some kind of stain. And you can make a decision whether you think it might be reworked or original. This may have been thinned by someone less skillful later on, and it caused the step fractures, or resharpened by someone that's less skillful than the original maker. I've got some preforms over here on this side. Or what I think are preforms. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at these first. The reason why I think these are preforms is because the blade expands toward the tip. That means they're thinning it down up here toward the end of the construction of the point. The base and the stem, the barbs, everything is made before the rest of the blade, and they're trying to thin it out and they end up breaking it. But you can see how this edge expands outward. It's probably going to expand just so far and then go back in, so it'd be like a pentagonal shape preform. This one, very undeveloped edges, so I think this is the preform stage. It just snapped because of the aggressive flaking. Very large flakes being removed. Another preform. You see how the blade is very wide. The sides of the stem are still not narrowed down enough. Now, this could be used as is, right? As a knife, perhaps. I may be getting it wrong. It might not be a preform. It may be a finished knife in a larger handle than this, or it could have been in a handle like this. But I would imagine it would be a larger handle. Just my opinion. If it's a finished piece and not a preform. Another preform broken in manufacture, as far as I know. The edge was developed here to some extent, although it's kind of crude because it has step fractures and stuff. Normally a finished edge doesn't look that bad. And I think that's a flat spot on the edge there that wasn't napped out yet. So I think that's a preform. Another thing that I think is a preform. Edges are not sharpened or anything. Just pretty much just roughed out. Interesting material. Big old step fracture. Not much you can do about it at this stage. It looks like the napper tried to get rid of it with this strike here. Tried to get rid of this step fracture with this strike, and it failed. Or he was trying to get rid of this step fracture with this one, with this strike here. But I think it was this one first and then that one. And this one has the side, the barb is way too large for a finished point, I think. So it's a preform, snapped in manufacture. At least that's what it looks like to me. And it also looks like material that can be heat treated. But I won't discuss that. I already beat that horse to death in the last video. Okay. Let's run through these pretty fast. Just normal damage. Snap. Could be from anything. Another snap. Might be impact, might be just regular use, might be dropping it, might be stepping on it. Another snap. Let's see, did I show how thin that is? But it's thick right here across the neck. Most of these are like that, thick right across the neck. It doesn't fit well in this type of foreshaft, but let's see. This one fits very well. Yeah, most of these fit nicely into this type of foreshaft here. Looks like impact, some weird damage there. Little ding off the ear. Very long stem, which makes it harder to haft into this type unless you have a very deep notch. I don't know, some of you guys can probably make this work with some very hard wood here. This is mulberry. This happens to be a very hard piece of mulberry, but if you have hard wood and then delicate ears, that combination doesn't mix very well. When you're shooting it, it breaks the ears off instead of yielding to it. You know, if you have a soft wood like willow or something, it tends not to break the ears off as much. At least in my experience. I've used a couple of different types of hardwood and some softwood. I've used aspen and willow for the foreshafts, and I haven't shot them very much, but just mounting them, I can hear little snappings. If it's a hard wood, it actually modifies the edge inside or at the bottom. When you're trying to shift it around during the hafting, you can hear little popping of the flakes, but with a softer foreshaft, you don't hear that. And I imagine it's even worse when it's shot at something. Okay. Many of these types of chert are translucent. It looks like impact here, but it could be a snap of some sort. This one looks reworked. It's kind of thick. See, this here, this is the average diameter for the foreshafts on the ones we have examples of. It's 10.5 millimeters here and 11.5 millimeters there. I think they range up to 14 millimeters wide, but the average seems to be about 11 or 12. But I'll look it up and stuff. Let's see. I was using this one here, which is a little bit fatter, but I was starting to get some of this asphaltum on the point, so I didn't want to have that to happen. So I made a new one, more in line with some of the ones that we've seen in illustrations and photographs. But this one doesn't seem to fit well here. But it will fit well in something like this. Maybe not as wide, because the stem is kind of narrow on this one. Although this stem one might work. And to fix the canted blade, you can push it over, as long as you have room at the bottom of the notch. And then use lots of glue, and it'll work. And you can realign the tip. You have a lot of play when you have a large notch, a large piece of wood up here. You can play around with it a lot and get that point to line up. So I'll put this one away. I think they were mounted in this type of foreshaft in the vast majority of cases. Even with something that small, it'll still work. And again, if you have a lot of room at the bottom of the notch, you can play with it, adjust it so that it lines up, and it can still be a useful projectile point if you need it. Or if it's just your little pocket knife or whatever, you can still use it to do whatever. This is the last batch, by the way. But there's plenty in here. Same kind of point, or same kind of stems on these points. Uneven resharpening, right? So that looks like a knife to me. This one has a lot of impact damage. Nice material. Not all that translucent. Yeah, some of these are. The root beer ones are usually pretty cool. Some of these feel rough and some of these feel smooth. Some of these feel like they've been abraded. I didn't discuss that either. Like they rubbed it with stone on the outside. And some of them don't feel that way. This one does feel that way, like it's been rubbed. It could be because of the age. But this one doesn't feel like it's rubbed. There's still a bunch of... Yeah, there's still a bunch of hard edges. Anyway, I think this has a heat pop on it, so I'll put that in there. And yeah, this has room to move. It's another one of those canted blades. But if you have room at the bottom of the notch, if it's a U-shaped notch, you can align it. I just push this blade that way, and the bottom goes that way, and it lines up. And there's just enough glue to put a glue line all the way. I mean, just enough space to put a glue line all the way around, and then wrap it. And you won't have any gaps, and you'll have a smooth transition. If you have a glue line up here and a glue line all the way around, like 1/8 of an inch wide all the way around. Glue inside the notch too, but just on the outside. And then when you wrap it, you don't have gaps between the sinew and the stone and the wood because the glue is right there. And in this transition up here, you can put sinew over the top of that or just leave it exposed, but the glue will make a smooth transition between the wood and the stone. Just for you that are curious, first timers, I have hafted some points on video. I haven't done enough of it though. I'll do some more. Yep. Funny how they all fit, huh? And they're just at random. It's not funny because I designed the foreshaft according to these. In case you're wondering. I cheated. But, you know, I could have said, wow, I just guessed. And lo and behold, they all fit. No, I designed this for this type of wide stemmed point. Okay. And it's very curious that they all do fit. Like they were using, you know, someone makes foreshafts, and everyone kind of goes with the dimension. When they're mapping, they check and see, yep, it matches Joe's foreshaft pattern. Cool. And you can mass produce these foreshafts. And as long as they all have the same notch in them, they're going to fit all the points. So the knappers don't have to sit there and make foreshafts also. You can have someone else do that. This one's kind of thin. Let's see. Yeah, it looks a little odd to me to be so wide on a, you know, skinny foreshaft. Well, you never know. That's a lot of impact damage there for sure. If that had an ear, it would sit in there pretty well. Again, you have the... Well, this one's not too bad, but you still have to mess with it a little bit to get that blade to line up straight. So see that edge lines up with the axis of the foreshaft. You have to play with it a little bit. Why they made those long ears, I don't know. I think those are definitely, well, not definitely, but very good possibility that they're socketed in something wider than this and deeper with no bottom, like a rib bone or something with a pith like an antler. Just hollow it out, hollow the pith out of the bone or the antler, or with certain large bones, they have marrow on the inside. You can crack the bone, get the marrow out, and then put the bone back together after you take the marrow out, and then you can mount something like this to it. And there's not going to be anything touching these ears down inside that marrow cavity that's now empty. But curiously enough, it fits in there. And there is a little bit of play in this because it's thin wood, so it kind of moves in and out, but it's not that flexible. Anyway, many different styles. You can see how it's been resharpened, I think. Many different styles of the base. This one looks pretty wide like that preform, but not quite as wide. Little bases. Looks like an impact damage Burin type of break there. This one's quite thin. Yeah, I still don't see a benefit to putting it on a really thin foreshaft. I mean, maybe something like that. A little thicker. Maybe. But again, you have a misalignment between the stem and the blade itself. It's curved. So you need to be able to play around with the placement to get the blade to line up. If you're going to throw it. If you're not, then it doesn't matter. But it looks like many of these have impact damage from being thrown. So it looks like they were throwing everything at some point. That's an impact fracture. Pretty classic looking impact fracture. Imagine that. It fits nicely. Yes, sir. Now, what is the dimension on this? You might be asking. Please show the dimension on that. Okay. So let's see. To get the millimeter, I'm going to start at number 2. At 2 centimeters. All right. The opening is 6.5 millimeters here, or maybe 6 millimeter there. Of course, it gets narrower as it goes down, and then the top is 8 millimeter, so 6 to 8 millimeter. I don't know what that is in inches. 1, 2, 3, 5/16 at the top, 1/4 inch at the bottom, so a little bit 1/16 of an inch difference. The width, let's see, at the bottom is 15, 16 or 17 millimeters, and 5/8. Yeah, 5/8 there, and the top is pretty similar, 5/8. So now you know. You can make one of Joe's universal foreshafts for pattern Alice points. Impact damage. That's what it looks like. Oh, this one here, very wild and crazy. I kind of like these wild and crazy ones. All kinds of random stuff going on. These ears are all wonky. The barbs are all wonky. The blade has got crazy bold flakes everywhere. Definitely percussion, probably done mostly like 90% with percussion. Oh, look at that. It fits. Even with all that craziness. Amazing. Okay. But yeah, I like that type. That's all crazy. That's my favorite type. Other than there's some that are extremely well made. Like this. I like the extremes. This is an extremely well, very precise, very precisely napped point. This type and the crazy type, those are my favorite. These two, the extremes. Now this one is a little bit large for this particular foreshaft. Very deep notch in the middle there. So I would say that was a knife with a bigger handle, not one like this. This one here, I guess I could see that one on a foreshaft like this, but I don't have the whole point. Of course, it's broken, but I can see it on one of these because it's narrow enough. Who knows? Very well made. Very thick across the neck. See, the crazy one is thick across the neck as well. And this one is pretty consistent all the way down. Little tiny barbs. You don't have to worry about the barbs. I like that part. Don't have to worry about them breaking or making large barbs and ruining them during the napping and all that stuff. Just make little barbs. Very, very well made here on this one. Plenty of room. It'll snap. Bunch of step fractures at the bottom of the notch. For those of you just tuning in. Why do they do that? Why do they have it so messy like that? Why can't it be perfect and beautiful like these? Some of them are perfect and beautiful and some of them are not. Some of them are very clear or very translucent, some are not. Just all kinds. Nice thinning flakes, very flat. It feels pretty smooth. Like, well, I don't know about that part. It doesn't feel smooth, but the rest of it feels like it's been polished at least a little bit. There's no grinding. I don't know if I mentioned that. There's no grinding at all on any of these edges on the stem. On any of these, as far as I can tell. These are not like early archaic or paleo. Although this does feel a little bit ground. So I might speak too soon, but most of these are not, vast majority are not ground. So they weren't worried about cutting the lashing, which means they're using sinew. That's what I think. Impact fracture. Massive impact fracture. So they mounted this to the end of a foreshaft or a spear. This looks like a preform actually that broke it during manufacture. Edges are still not developed. Still thick spots that need to be napped, in my opinion. It's one of those wild and crazy types. The ears are all crazy. Okay, I'll continue on the next segment. Now, long handle, handle on this one, long stem on this one, which means, you know, deeper socket on the handle or deeper notch. Extremely well thinned. The retouch is very careful. The bottom of the notches are very carefully done. The top of the notches are carefully done. You know, the flaking goes across the top of the notch without interfering with the notch, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can flake across and then ruin everything. But these are very carefully done. On most of these, that's the way it is. Now, some of them might have long stems because they broke, you know, they broke the barbs as they were going up, so they just kept going up and up and up to get a symmetrical looking barb set up, you know. But if they didn't want the stem to be that long, they can just remove these ears. So I guess he wanted it that long. Okay. Very nice. Oops, there's a step fracture. Gotta throw it away. No. They obviously didn't care. Yep. Still so funny that the ears are different sizes. Massive impact damage. Still looks pretty though. Right? Right. Nice material. A little bit of cortex on here. A little bit of concrete there. So this has there's some skill involved in doing this. Very inconsistent material. It's different here, different there, different there, and different there. 4 different or 5 different knapping consistencies just in this little piece. And still got it nice and thin. Expertly made. Beautiful. Impact. Looks like impact damage. And that's a classic impact fracture from the stem. On the stem, whatever. So, in the haft, I don't know what they were hafting it to. Something deep socketed something. Or, you know, could have been in a fight. Or who knows. Yeah, it definitely looks like an impact. Another impact fracture. Nice. I don't have to worry about this one at all. It just sits in the notch really nicely. You can kind of imagine how the tip would be. Let's see. I have one that's almost complete. So there you go. Just imagine. That's how it looks. Does that seem right, or do you think it was just a fat handle? I don't know. Looks like it'll work to me. Might be a little large, but hey. Don't care. That's hard to nap through there. But easier with heat. If you heat the whole thing, it's easier to nap through those. When it's raw and you encounter one of those, it's not so nice. You don't usually get a nice little flake to go over that. Classic snap. I say classic because it's common. I should say common snap. This one has a little bit of a dishing out, which you do see sometimes on these kind of things. They attack that thickness from both sides and dished it out. And it was probably, oh, I don't know. No, this is probably a broken in manufacture. The edge does not look developed at all on this side. Yeah. Broken in manufacture. This one looks like it was well used. Same kind of deal with two thinning flakes meeting up with an island or a stack in the center. The point, let's see, probably like that. Impact fracture. Lots of calcium deposit. Impact fracture. Probably lost an ear that's been resharpened. Probably lost an ear during impact. That sort of thing. A little bit more narrow than usual, but it still fits. And here's a tiny one. Let's see. That looks more reasonable. Yeah. You put these on a tapered shaft or something with a smaller diameter. As long as you got room at the bottom, you can play with it to get the blade straight. But it looks fine like that. Yeah, amazing how the width is very similar. It's not like I planned it. Don't you know? This one does not look like a paternalis because the ears are fanning out. It's an expanding stem, and it's much shorter. So probably not a paternalis point. Probably oh gosh, I can't even remember now. Marshall. Something like that. Another archaic style. Another preform. The blade is, well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Looks like the blade was all kind of wonky. And maybe they just put a stem on it to be a knife. And it's not a preform, but an actual knife that was used on one side, and then I guess when that wears out, you switch it around, sharpen it up, and use the other side. I don't know. This one's a Frio. It's not a paternalis. It's got a very short stem. Impact fracture. Another short stemmer. But the sides are straight. I think Marshalls sometimes have straight sides. I can't remember. Looks like a finished point, but the edge is not well developed. If I check the sharpness on each one of these, it'd take forever, but this one's kind of sharp. Thin, bunch of bold flakes. Little tiny one. Yeah, that's more reasonable for this type of foreshaft. Okay, so yeah, impact fracture. A lot of impact fractures for knives, huh? Stabbing rocks. Who knows? Wonky little ears. Crazy flaking. I like these. Very precise ears, right, on some of these. So you get all types. Nice edge. Come and snap. Nice edges. You can still feel the sharpness. Very thin. Nice edge. And the one thing here I forgot to mention is I set this caliper to 1 5/8 or about 42 millimeter, and they all seem to be under that width. If I could get a full width on it, right, they all seem to be under 1 5/8. So you guys that are napping these big old 2-inch wide pedernales points are wondering if you were listening or paying attention. See that? Now let's see. Now this one here, probably not, right? But it's got issues. It's not a finished point. But these finished points, they're all under 1 5/8. And I see a lot of guys making pedernales points that are very wide. Of course, in the stage 1, you know, pristine state, I suppose it's possible, but hope you guys are paying attention. I don't get angry when I see guys make really wide pedernales points, but the average, this one is kind of wide, but then this base looks like it's a preform. And if I go back to, you know, a bunch of these other ones that I just showed, they're all under 1 5/8. I went through all of them, and they're under that, so they're probably averaging 1 3/8. Right? Let's see. That's 1 3/8. 1 4/8 is 1 1/2. 1 5/8 is the maximum I'm finding on these. Yeah, this is a little bit larger than 1 5/8. 1/16 more than 1 5/8. So 1 11/16. And this looks like it could be a stage 1, pristine, with a snap. So I don't think they got wider, much wider than this. I could be wrong, but it looks like all the original flaking with just edge retouch on this one. But I could be wrong. It could have started wider. I'm not going to dismiss that possibility. But what I wanted to show is, you know, watch out for the width. Alrighty. Not all of these have thick across the neck. This one is really thin. Of course, it could be classified as a different style and not pedernales. It could be Jetta or Gower or something. Then canted so that the blade is not aligned with the stem. This one's a double trouble because it's got very long ears. The blade is not, see there, it's not aligned with the stem. I mean, not aligned with the blade. Maybe this side is flat, but this side curved. Crazy stuff. Nice flaking. But you notice on a lot of these pedernales points, there's a central thinning flake and a lot of retouch on the sides, like this one. Let's see, get a better one here. Yeah. Central thinning flake, or almost like a flute with retouch on the sides. But these crazy ones have the flaking everywhere. They just go for the gusto. They don't even put a thinning flake up the middle. They just, they might do a little pop out maybe now and then, but they just crunch in that notch in the bottom. They don't bother to flute it, and all these flakes are all crazy. Very thick, very sturdy point, but it snapped anyway. They were fighting rocks. Snap this off. This looks like a Buren fracture there. It's just heavy duty impact. Maybe they use it as a spear. It's the only thing I can think of. Other than fighting rocks, yeah. Stupid. All right. Very nice. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get bored with these. Less than 1 5/8, guys. Okay. Heap up. Very nice. Nice little edges on this one. Barbers broke off, and oh well. Still shoot it, break it. Can't wait to go out and break some arrowheads. What? Yeah, that's what happens. 99% of them. Interesting retouch. And I don't buy it that it's a scraper, you know. It's probably still a knife. It can still cut. Might not be able to poke your eye out, but it'll cut your head. All right. Nice, very methodical. Very careful flint knapping on this one. And I would bet that that's a heat treat. Yeah. Not translucent. These lighter colors can withstand a lot of heat. But when you encounter them in the raw state, these lighter colors really are not nice to nap in the raw state. Now this one probably is raw. It looks like a high quality shirt. Crazy. I don't know. Broken to manufacture, I'm gonna guess. Still got that, you know, new look to it without any refinement. The unrefined look. There you go. Nice and sturdy, big, thick knife. That's what I think that one is. This one's probably not a paternalis. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, there's probably 3 different point types here: Pedernales, Gower, Baker, Marshall. That's like 4, right? But they're mostly Pedernales. Nice, nice. This is a very nice edge. That's super good. And there's a break from that side. I don't know what happened on this side, but this is such a nice edge. Let's see if we can get a close-up. And it's still sharp. Yeah. Very nice. And I have some of this material. Very brittle. If it's the same material that I've used, this type is very brittle. But it responds to heat. It heats well. Still brittle in the heated state, of course, but in the raw state, it's not fun to work with. But this one could be different. It could be nice to work with in a raw state. I just have never worked this type of material. All right. Impact or some kind of crazy happenings there. That one went to a party and fell off the balcony. That's what I think. Nice impact fracture on this one for sure. Barb still intact. Nice sharp edge. Very nice. Yeah, this is sharp too. Impact for sure. Looks like they threw it at something. Got it really mad. Impactaroos. All these are impacts. Yeah, impact. Looks like impact, but who knows? Could be a classic snap. This one, probably a heat pop. And the heat pop stuff, my theory is cremation burials caused it. That's my theory. Yeah, I know this material here. I do know this. I've got some of it. They skin this. This is a skin off the surface of the nodule. You can see it's fading into cortex here. And they worked it. They worked the skin of the nodule. That's the way to do it. Otherwise, this material really is not fun. So it could be raw, yeah. Or they heated the nicest part. Yeah, if you skin it off, skinning means you knock blades off of the outside of the nodule and hope to capture the 1/4 inch just below the surface. That's the best chert in many cases, because the interior tends to become more and more concrete-ish as you go further inward, and the outside is going to be the good quality stuff. So who knows, maybe most of these are made of skinned chert. In that case, they could work many of these pieces raw, and I don't disagree with that assessment. I know this material as well. Yeah. In fact, I think I might. I should save this one so I can look for the material I've got. I've got a piece almost just like this with same colors and everything. This is cortex-ish right here. So this is a skinned flake as well. But as you can see, it's not that nice to work with. And it's, just under the surface, sometimes you have the weathering cracks and all that stuff. Wicked barb, I like these two. But it looks like it's undeveloped. The edge is not finished. So, broken manufacture. A lot of calcium deposits. There's a impact fracture looking thing on that side. I don't know. Little stem or a barb or something. Probably. I wonder if that's heat damage. I'm gonna put it there anyway. Little bases, little teeny bases. Yeah, I like this. Now this edge up here is developed, but not this. So what happened is I don't think they messed with the barb when they were resharpening or when they were finishing out the point. It looks like on this, especially on this one, they didn't finish out the barb. They didn't come back and finish that out. They just stopped right there because I go, oops, that's a barb. Can't touch that. It might snap off. So yeah, that's my theory. Heat pop. Whoops. That I cannot do. But luckily there was a towel down there. All right. Massive damage. They were really angry at that person. Okay. Yeah, impact for sure. Now, do impact fractures look different on heat-treated material? Very good question. I don't know. That's a short answer. I suspect yes. There's a more extensive damage on a heat-treated piece, and the impact damage is going to look more severe. Yes, I think that's the key. The impact damage is going to look more severe, so I would say that's a heat-treated piece with severe impact damage. And these little snaps right here, you think those are heat treats? And it's easy to snap off the bases? That's a hard one. That's a harder one to answer because they all can snap, raw or heat treat. Yeah, there's another. People getting to angry fights. A lot of impact and other damage on that one. Okay, we're almost to the end. I was going to weigh a bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to. Well, I won't do that to you guys. I got some time. I've been sitting here for almost an hour. My neck is kind of bugging me. Let's see. You got a pain in the neck? Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. 294. 268. 234. This is all grains, by the way, not grams. This is grains. 244. These are all, they're not complete. How did this get in here? Did I weigh it? Or I don't know. I don't know if I weighed that. It's from the last video. 264. These are going to be like only 75% of the actual weight. Some of these are very much intact, right? So you can study. I'll give you an eye full of these so you can study the shape of the blade. All it's missing is the tips on this, basically. And it looks like it's been resharpened at least once or twice, so that they'll probably start a lot wider than this. But they are still under 1 5/8. There you go. $244, $314, $258, $246, $388. Big massive one. I think these are the knives. 300. Nice. That's another one that I should save. Save this one, that one, and where's the other one? There it is. Oops. Save that one. Save that one. I got 4 of them. I'm going to draw these. I'm going to draw these and then guess on the blades and barbs. So that's a good reference. All right. 226. 302. Dang it. 260. 230. Did I weigh that one? 388. 314. 238. Look at that. Massive, massive ear and resharpened for sure. Lots of resharpening. They like that one. That was somebody's favorite. 218. I wouldn't resharpen that sucker unless it was my favorite. 218. That's a nice one of those. 206. 180. Are we starting to see a pattern? 250. 248. 338. I think we're starting to see a pattern. 266. 314. 220. 258. 248. 300. I think that's the winner. 290. I think 300 is going to be a very close estimate for this. 266. I'm not sure if I weighed these, but I'm going to do it anyway. 240. 214. So I would estimate these to be 300 grains on the average. The length on these, this one's going to be a little over 3 inches, 3 1/8. This is probably going to be 3.5 inches. This is about 3 1/8 inches. That's kind of an easy number to remember. 300 grains, 3 inches. This one's gonna be more, 3.5 inches. So yeah, okay, that's it. I could show you the heat pops, but I'm running out of time. Nothing but a good old ugly heat poppers, just to give you an idea. Okay, that's it.